In a small Irish village called Ballystown, folks still remember a guy who pulled off a massive $3,600,000 heist right in broad daylight. The totally wild part is that he didn't even have a gun or a mask on his face. He just kept walking around freely after the whole operation went down, but the cops couldn't lay a single finger on him because he pulled off all this looting completely legally. This dude's name was Barney Curley, a super mysterious and slick gambler. He was so crafty that even the most hardcore players and bookies would literally stop betting just hearing his name. He used his brains to not only find the loopholes in the system, but he actually turned them into his own personal weapon. This is the mind-blowing story from 1975 that the world now knows as the Yellow Sam Betting Coup. On June 26, 1975, there was this little village named Ballystown, located about 16 miles away from Dublin, where a horse race was going down. The race course was super lively, and folks were getting ready for the race to kick off. People were putting their cash on different horses, and the bookies were taking their spots, but Barney Curley was nowhere to be seen. He was actually hiding right inside the racecourse behind some thorny bushes, just waiting for the race to start. He was hiding because of the bookies out there, since if they figured out Barney was around or his horse was running, they would immediately go on high alert and might even shut down the betting altogether. Back then, Barney had a really notorious reputation in the gambling industry. Whenever Barney showed up at a race, or even just stepped foot on the grounds, the bookies knew some sketchy stuff was definitely about to happen, but the move he was about to pull off that day was the biggest and most dangerous gamble of his entire life. Barney Curley was the kind of guy who didn't even spare his own flesh and blood. His dad, Charlie Curley, used to train greyhound dogs and bet money on their races. Right at the last minute of the race, his dad would dope up his slowest dog with meds to make it run crazy fast and then bet all his money on it. That's how they would hustle the bookies and make some seriously good cash. Barney knew all about his old man's dirty tricks. One day, when he was just a 15-year-old kid, Charlie told him to feed the spiked meat to the dog, but Barney purposely didn't give that meat to the dog. The next day, that dog lost the race, and Charlie took a massive financial hit. But one guy was super thrilled about it, and that was Barney. Barney had secretly fed the spiked meat to another dog and bet his money on that one instead by hustling his own dad. Barney made his first 12 pounds, which is equal to about $500 today. Honestly, if a guy starts his betting career by scamming his own dad, you can easily guess what he's going to do to the rest of the world in just a bit. In betting, you got a punter who puts money on the horses, and if their horse wins, the money doubles, triples, or whatever the rate is. The guy setting this rate is the bookie, who decides how many times the payout will be for each horse. If a horse is super slow, its chances of winning are pretty low, so its rate is the absolute highest, like a 1 to 20 odds, meaning you bet $1 and take home $20 if it wins. On the flip side, the horse most likely to win has the lowest payout rate because everyone is betting on it. So technically, the guy who makes the absolute most cash is the one who bets on the slowest horse and actually has that horse pull off a win. That is a 20 times payout right there. Charlie spent his whole life using meds to make his slow greyhounds fast and his fast dogs slow, which is exactly how he kept hustling the bookies, and since betting wasn't exactly strictly legal back then, the rules were pretty loose anyway. In 1956, something happened that drowned Charlie in debt right up to his neck. Just like always, he doped up his slow dog and bet all his money on it. But fate had other plans. The meds had a bad reaction, and not only did the dog lose, but it fell down and actually broke its spine. Barney was 16 years old at the time, and he took his dad's loss straight to the heart. This single loss pushed their whole family into a massive swamp of debt. Barney had to drop out of school and hustle at a factory just to help his dad pay off all those loans. For the next 18 months, they both worked day and night, and whatever they earned went straight back into paying the bookies. This was the exact time when Barney saw the dark and dangerous side of gambling super up close. After that, Barney tried his hand at a bunch of gigs in life, but everywhere he went, he just kept taking losses. Sometimes he opened a betting shop, other times a pub. He even stepped into music management, but nothing ever worked out for him. It got to the point where he even started smuggling, moving cross-border Gillette blades. But one day, a massive shootout went down at the border, and the sound of bullets absolutely terrified Barney. His heart was always stuck on horse racing and gambling anyway, so he finally decided to step into the professional gambling world. Sure, he made his first bucks by hustling his dad, but that was his actual starting point. By 1975, He had caused total chaos in the gambling world, scoring massive loot along the way. Sometimes his tricks worked out, but other times he ended up totally drowning in debt. Things got so incredibly bad that bookies would start panicking just hearing Barney's name. They wouldn't even let him play the game. Or if there was a horse with the highest rate, they would immediately drop those odds. This time around, Barney was drowning in £12,000 of debt, and he only had one single way out of this mess. That is exactly when a wild, insane idea popped right into his head. Barney hit up an old buddy and asked for a horse with a totally garbage track record. They named this horse Yellow Sam, which actually used to be his dad's nickname back in the day. This horse's record was straight up terrible, finishing worse than 8th place in its last 9 races. Barney used a super sneaky strategy, intentionally making the horse run on tracks and in races that totally went against its natural style. This tanked Yellow Sam's official rating even more, to the point where it actually became eligible for handicap racing, while the real truth was that Yellow Sam was a crazy fast runner on hard ground. Barney intentionally under-handicapped Yellow Sam so that when the real race came around, the horse could sprint like absolute crazy. He picked a national race going down at the Ballierstown Racecourse on June 26, 1975. It was a handicap race called the Mount Hanover Handicap Hurdle, but everything he did up to this point was just one small piece of his master plan. Picking the Ballierstown track had a very specific reason behind it, because there was literally only one public phone booth available for communication out there. Back in those days, whenever a race happened, folks across the country would start betting on their favorite horses at betting shops hours in advance. These shop owners stayed closely connected with the track bookies, and if a ton of cash was put on a specific horse, the shop guys would call the bookies to drop that horse's payout rate. But the golden rule was that once the race started, the odds would be totally locked in. Barney figured if he could somehow block that single phone line at the Ballierstown Racecourse at the very last minute, the bookies out there would lose all contact with the betting shops, and Yellow Sam's rate would stay at 1 to 20 right up to the very end. But he had to pull this off without raising any suspicion whatsoever, because if the bookies even caught a slight whiff, they would drop the rates for all the horses. The success of this insane plan totally depended on Barney's trusted buddies backing him up. He picked out 300 guys across the entire island who would throw money on Yellow Sam at the very last second. To make this happen, Barney handed them cash envelopes ranging from £50 to £300. He had scraped together £15,000 for this whole scheme, which was literally his entire life savings at the time. If this plan busted, he wouldn't just be financially ruined, but the crushing debt could have easily sent him straight to lockup. Then the massive race day finally arrived. Gambling kicked off at the betting shops hours in advance. Just as they expected, Yellow Sam had the absolute highest odds because his official rating was so weak. Right at the last 25 minutes before the race started, a dude named Benny rolled up to the public phone booth at the Ballierstown Racecourse. This was one of Barney's totally trusted friends, and his main job was to completely hijack that public phone booth. He picked up the receiver and purposely started crying his eyes out. The folks standing in line put up with it for a bit, but then he told them that his aunt was super sick and lying on her deathbed, so it was incredibly important for him to talk to her. A lot of people felt really bad for him, but the bookies waiting in that same line had a massive problem with it. Barney had specifically told him that if anyone tried to forcefully take the phone away, he should straight up smash the phone out of anger, but under no circumstances should he let anyone else make a call from there for 25 minutes straight. The betting managers frantically tried to call the track to lower the odds, but they kept getting a busy signal every single time they dialed. The bookies at the track had zero clue about the absolute storm that was brewing outside. Barney was actually at the race course himself, but to dodge the bookies, he was hiding out in the bushes, watching the race through some binoculars. When the race kicked off, Yellow Sam showed off some insane speed with his jockey, and even the crowd-favorite horse named Silver Road totally failed to keep up. Yellow Sam cleared 13 hurdles with zero issues and won the race by a length of roughly 8 feet. When the race wrapped up and the bookies finally realized what had just gone down, there was a massive uproar out there. They tracked down Benny, the guy who had hogged the phone booth, and dragged him back, but he just said it was a total miracle. His aunt was feeling way better now, and he straight up denied even knowing who Barney was. Now it was finally time for the bookies to pay up. Barney's total investment in this whole game was £15,000, which meant he was getting a 20 times return, totaling £300,000, which translates to a massive $3,500,000 in today's money. The bookies were absolutely furious and paid out the cash entirely in £1 notes, which filled up a total of 108 massive bags. This whole coup turned into major headlines all across Ireland and the UK. Barney Curley became an absolute living legend overnight. The most important part was that he hadn't actually broken a single law. He just took advantage of the system's weak spot and turned it into his ultimate weapon. After this whole crazy event, the bookies changed up their rules and made it mandatory to have at least a 30-minute time frame for any major bets. Barney Curley pulled off a bunch of other big and small gambles after 1975, but his massive coups in 2010 and 2014 really proved that even at 70 years old, his brain was still as ridiculously sharp as ever. Barney Curley passed away on May 23, 2021, at 81 years old while battling cancer. When he passed, the horse racing world paid a huge tribute to him as an absolute genius and the Robin Hood of racing, because he was the kind of guy who knew exactly how to hustle the system on one hand, while having the massive heart to spend that cash on the poor on the other. Hope you guys will hit that like and share button. Huge thanks for all your awesome and lovely comments, and I will catch you all in the next epic video.